welcome to another episode of the Tapestry podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Froswá Drew, and I am so excited to have Chef Amber here with us today. So I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to get into the conversation because I can't wait to talk to her. I've heard so many amazing things, and a friend connected us.
Yes.
So we're going to have a great conversation. So Chef Amber Williams, a Dallas native, is head chef and owner of LeRouge Cuisine food company. LeRouge Cuisine simply translates to the Red Kitchen in French, which culminates her Creole roots. Red is the color of passion, power, and zeal. And with the kitchen being her domain, it just stuck, she says. In mid-August of 2015, with much prayer and no money saved, she made the daunting decision to leave corporate America. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
And take on LeRouge as a full-time business. Now, 8 years later, LeRouge Cuisine has become a business on the rise in the DFW metroplex, with successful collaborations with outstanding brands, high-end clientele such as comedians, local celebrities, city officials, and Fortune 500 companies. You are doing very well for yourself.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this. You are the youngest of three.
Yeah.
How did that shape you into being who you are now?
And you know what's so funny? They say the youngest is spoiled. I was not spoiled, okay?
They do say that.
They do, but that wasn't the case with me. I had to earn everything I had, but I was a very active child. I was the rambunctious one. I was the one with all the questions, asking why this and why that. So I was that, lovely surprise child at the end.
So, but let me ask you this. How did you get into wanting to be in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Because, your family is from my home state.
Okay. Louisiana?
And so I am, everybody laughs because I'm from North Louisiana.
Okay.
Which everybody says is East Texas.
I went to school in North Louisiana.
So where'd you go?
Grambling State University.
Yes, down the street from my mom. So everybody makes fun. They're like, that's not authentic.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes, it
Thank
is.
you. Say it for the people in the back.
The whole boot counts. The whole boot counts.
Say it for the people in the back because they don't believe that.
I understand.
But talk about how that also got you interested in food, because that has a lot of influence on what you do.
It really does. So, you should know, being in Louisiana, my entire family cooks. So when we get together, when we get together for Mardi Gras, it's uncles outside frying turkeys, his grandmother in the side doing red beans and rice, it's the cousins doing the sides, and somebody got the pound cake, and we got about 5 pound cake recipes between all the aunts. So my mom is the youngest out of 7, so I have 5 aunts and 2 uncles on her side, and everybody cooks. But then go down to the Texas side where I was really born and raised. Texas is the home of bold flavors. So my mom brought her Creole and Cajun culture to Texas. So I tell people I didn't have like fried and smothered pork chops and like chicken wings. We had fried frog legs, and we had gumbo, and we had red beans and rice. So to take both those Texas and Louisiana flavors, I've been in the kitchen since I was little. And I was fascinated with food. I was fascinated with, licking the spoon, the pound cake spoon, and just like getting my hands dirty. And from a young age, I was sitting super close to the TV watching public access cooking shows. And I was just standing there and just watch it. And they're like, can we watch something else? I'm like, no. Julia Childs isn't off. I want to watch. So yeah, since the age of 8, that's what my dad says. That's when I told my mom that I wanted to be a chef when I was 8.
I didn't have that experience. Let me tell you why. My dad owned a restaurant.
Okay.
My dad loved cooking. So I grew up around it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it's so much work.
Yes.
That's what I remember. And I remember as a kid, my family tells this story about my dad was cutting up chickens, and he calls me and he goes, come down here. You need to learn how to do this. And I must have been like 8. And I said, I'm not learning to do that. I can buy mixed parts. And my dad my dad was like, okay, go.
Whose child are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Whose child are you?
And even then, I knew that was not my gifting.
Understood.
And my dad was amazing. How did you at 8 go, this is it?
So when you think about it, we all gather for food. When there's a funeral, there's a repast with food.
That's true.
When there's a wedding, there's a reception for food. When you have birthdays, there's a birthday party with food. Exactly, right? For any and everything, we gather around food. And my mom is a mom that likes to entertain. So she's one of those people that she pulls out all the platters. And for years, when I was a little kid around the holidays, we used to sit down with my mom and literally plan out our holiday menu. She's like, okay, what is our side's going to be? Like, oh, how are we going to make a twist of that? Maybe we can do candy pecans on top of the sweet potatoes. And she used to do a Dr. Pepper ham. She used to pour Dr. Pepper all over it. So, and slowly, year after year, my older sister just used to fade away out of the kitchen. And then it just used to be me and my mom. I was like, wait a minute. So it was me and my mom, but I love that. Like, I love that part. Bringing people together, have them come in. What y'all cooking? What's to eat? And just watch people eat and watch them glow. And like, I was like, okay, I want to share that. I want to share my family recipes. And the Creole Fusion came along later along in my LeRouge career. But it just speaks to that same thing, just sharing great food with people and just making it memorable, like putting food back at the center and making it important. So, yeah, I've always loved it.
It's the love piece, and people say that when people are cooking, you can tell when love is in it.
Yes.
Is that really true? I believe it is.
No, it's very true. So somebody could put a recipe down right now, and if you were to make it and I was to make it, same
yours
recipe
would be better.
No, not saying that.
It would be different.
But it would taste different. Not one is better than the other.
Better.
But the love that you put in it is going to be so much different from the love and experience I put in it. So, and I think that's what makes it great. That's why we can take all the same dishes and flip it and turn it into all these beautiful things. That's what's been great for me, to look at different cultures and see the symmetry and the differences between all the dishes. And I'm like, y'all, we really are the same once we like dig underneath. It's just some little spices that are different. So yeah, I love that part. And it's like artistry for me. I started out loving cakes. Actually, a lot of people don't know that. I started out being fascinated with cakes. And when I was little, I was like, I'm going to make big, tall wedding cakes, and I'm going to stack them real tall.
Wow.
Until I made my first wedding cake for one of my college classmates and her college sweetheart. And I had to deliver their 3-tier cake from Texas to Louisiana. I said, oh, never again.
That was it.
It's not my ministry. No.
That is hard.
Oh, it is. Kudos to anybody who does the cakes. Like,
so how did you land on what you do now? What made you say, this is the specialty that I want to do?
So, again, having those Texas and Louisiana flavors was always home to me. Mm-hmm. But once I studied since I was born and raised in Texas, I had to study a little bit more about the Creole Cajun side, because that's just my second home. So I visit there every once in a while. But the food, come on now.
I know. It is
the food in Louisiana is just different. Like, it's in a world of its own. And once I started to really study like the Creole culture, my sister that's right above me, she used to be really into Ancestry.com. Mm-hmm. And she traced our heritage all the way back to the 1800s. And we found Ghanaian roots. My great-great-great-grandmother was a slave, and she just so happened to have a relationship with her slave master, who was a Scottish man. So I was like, that's why I like shepherd's pie, because we got Scottish here, we got the African influences. Then when you break down the Creole culture, that's what it is. It's Spanish, it's African, it's European, all these things. And I'm like, okay, we can blend these things together and still find some common symmetry. So that's where the Creole Fusion came from. But I mean, literally to this day, my dad tells me, he was like, I remember when you were little, you told us that you were going to be a chef, start a catering company, and you were going to have your mom work for you and make her retire. I said, is that what I said? Okay. So yeah, I knew from then that I wanted to be in business. It just so happens that I just went ahead and did it.
So talk about your journey. So you knew at 8, this is what you wanted to do.
Yep.
You end up going to Grambling. Mm-hmm. What did you study at Grambling?
Business management with an emphasis on entrepreneurship.
Which I know is smart, though.
For most people, that's a scapegoat, major. They're like, oh, this is where we're going to go just to like breeze through school. But it's like, no, my goal was to go to Grambling, get my business degree in 4 years, and to go to culinary school after that, and hopefully work in a restaurant or, do something like that. That was that was the goal. Half of that I did. Well, a third of that I did. But I graduated in 4 years. And I actually started my first business at Grambling.
Wow.
It was called Sweet Sensations because I was still
I was
still on the sweets tips. But I used to go around Grambling's campus with a basket filled with slices of cheesecake, brownies, and pecan candy. And I used to be in, the university seating that kind of goes up and like, psst, give me 2 pecan candy. I'm like sliding money during class. And my teachers are mad at me like, you can't do that. Like, stop selling in class. So it started there.
But you've always had this entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. I'm like, what you need? I got it. I got my backpack and my basket. I'm like, pecan candy, I got more tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you left Grambling, what happened then? Because you ended up doing corporate America.
I did.
How did you go to that when it seems like your passion was always doing food? So what was the detour?
I didn't know Sally Mae wanted her money back. Like as soon as we
those loans for school, they do make a difference. Yeah, they do.
If that's the case, I would have saved my refund check. But instead, I was at the daiquiri shop. I cannot lie to you. I'm like, nobody told me she wanted her money back. And I'm like...
And she's a little pushy about it, isn't she? Yeah, she's not nice.
No grace period or anything. So no, honestly, like when I kind of weighed out the cost and then I really wanted to go to Johnson & Wales. I wanted to go away. And
you wanted to go far away.
Yeah, I did.
Like, get out.
I wanted to have that full experience. But when I weighed the cost of and again, I didn't really know about scholarships and really doing all that thing. I'm like, oh my God, I got to pay for this all by myself. So I just weighed that cost versus I'm like, oh my God, if I get more debt, I'm going to live with my mom forever. I'm like, I can't do that. So I had to put it aside. I was like, you know what? I've been cooking all this time. So I'm going to just practice in my free time. And I went to go work for Enterprise. They, that's the company that draws in all the college students that just get out, especially those entrepreneurial minded people. That's who they look for. Yeah. I went to go work there and I loved working with people. But after a while, I'm just like, ugh. After a while, the balance wasn't there. When I started focusing on corporate work, then the cooking kind of faded away. And I'm like, oh, I haven't cooked in a while, so now I got to make recipes. And then my managers was like, hey, sis, are you here with us? But they didn't know I was distracted, really just honing my skills at home. So.
But it's interesting that your calling, you paid attention to it because, for many people, they push that down, even though it's something that they've always wanted to do. And the fact that it kept pulling at you and it was so loud for you and that you paid attention to it is amazing.
It's that thing that won't let you sleep at night. People say that. I'm like, yeah, food is that for me. And I started to have an affinity for fine dining and just other flavors and other cultures that I did not see. I'm born and raised in Oak Cliff, so we don't see those things. But I'm still like, I want to eat different stuff. And what's that? And octopus? Okay, I'll eat that too. My family's like, what? So it's always been a passion. I think the artistry side of it, because I'm a very creative person, I love everything about the arts. I was a dancer and cheerleader, and I sang, and I was in a band, and all those things. So everything about the arts, and then creating something out of nothing. Just taking this one thing and at the end of it, it becomes this whole nother thing that was just super fascinating to me. Still fascinating to me.
So talk to me about, you leave Enterprise.
Yep.
How did you then start the business?
So, like I said, I had that imbalance and I was praying to the Lord because I was depressed. So the heat that we feel right now, I worked at DFW Airport on that top level. And I still had the shoes for a little while. My shoes had a hole in them. And I would be walking. I'm like, why are my feet something is stinging my feet? And one day I looked and literally the whole hole in the bottom of my shoe. So I was walking on the pavement, bare skin. I said, oh no, this can't be what you had for me. It can't be. But when I kind of looked at that, I'm like, what do you want to do? At the end of the day, where do you see yourself at? And I was like, I want to be a chef. I want to have the business. So that's when, on my free time, I started writing down business names, studying what it takes to start a business. And in 2014, that's when I got my DBA. My DBA, Facebook page, and an email address. That's why people now, I tell them, I'm like, you ain't got to have all this stuff. This is all I had.
That's true.
and a network, and a mouthpiece and a passion behind what you're selling. But I started in 2014. So for a year, I was catering and I was a manager at that time at Love Field.
Oh, wow.
So I was managing Alamo, Enterprise, and National at Love Field Airport, but I was catering at the same time. And I never forget, one of my Grambling classmates had a baby shower that just so happened to be at a hotel by Love Field Airport. I brought their catering food to work, and I delivered her baby shower food on my lunch break. I never forget it. Sorry, managers. I did. And I was like, oh, yeah, we got to choose because I can't handle both. So we got to choose.
So you walked out on faith?
Oh, my goodness. When I say it was the scariest thing, so I prayed a lot. I was like, Lord, I'm depressed. Lord, you know what you've planned out for me. So, like, what do I do? And I was on the floor, like, crying in my house that I had just bought, by the way. I bought my house at 25 years old.
Wow.
Foreclosure. It was different times. But my dad is a really great advocate of home ownership and having assets. So he taught me and my sisters about, getting ownership for ourselves, and bought my house at 25. And I'm like, okay, I got my new house. And I'm praying to the Lord, like, what am I going to do? And I heard a still voice just say, jump. Just jump. And I was like, what? Jump where? Just jump and see if I catch you on the way down. I was like, oh, no, we're not trying to do this gamble. But when you know the Lord is talking to you and you know what he's saying, it's like, oh, I know what you're saying. I don't want to know what you're saying, but I know what you're saying. And I had a week where I was off. I wrote my resignation letter, but I did not put a date on it. And it just sat in my computer. I was like, oh, my goodness, what am I doing? And I finally put a date on it. And I gave it to my bosses. And my bosses cried, both of them.
Wow.
I was like, I didn't even know I was that important. Y'all should have paid me more. Maybe I would have stayed. Did not know. But, yeah, they cried. I was managing a team of like 40 people across the airport, ranging from ages 18 to 60. And they're like, no, Amber, but I know you love to cook. I mean, they knew. Everybody knew.
And the fact that you were so young managing that team and had that kind of impact.
I love people. Like, I really love people. And even now in my company now, like, I really love the management side. So I can't wait to build up a team and pull out their strengths and show them how they're the opportunity and their opportunity areas and stuff like that. I love people.
But it sounds like, just listening to you, your faith has so much to do with who you are.
Yes, that's all I have.
Talk about that.
That's all I have. I mean, I was rooted in Christianity, so God has always been in my life, always. I mean, when I got to Grambling, he had to tap me on the shoulder a few times, like, hey, sis.
That happens in college. Hey. I had a couple of times, at least you had a tap. I had to have a kick.
Now, this ain't what I taught you. Now, what you out here doing?
I had kicks, slaps in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a number of things. So it happens.
But I mean, when you're by yourself and you're trying to figure things out, it's like, I guess I'm going to talk to you. You say that you're here, so I'm going to just talk to you. And I've learned over the years that when I'm hearing confusion, I'm like, okay, that's not me. But when I hear a still voice, even though what it's saying might not be what I want to hear, that still voice, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's you. Okay, you're with me. So if you're with me, then I'm not alone. If I'm not alone, okay, well, I can walk forward. And now I'm like, all right, bruh, since you send me out here on this mission, you're going to have to keep me afloat. So that's our conversation now.
And what happens is
he does it every time.
He does it every time. Every single time.
Every time. Yeah.
But the fact that you trust and are obedient.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do, but that speaks volumes about your faith, that you are willing to go, I hear you, and I'm going to jump.
And
that had to be scary.
It was very scary. One of my best friends, she moved on a faith jump to LA, and I called her. I'm like, what am I going to do? I just got this house because I got my house in 2014 too. I started the business in 2014 too, and then quit in 2015. So I'm like, what am I doing? And she said, friend, you about to be the brokest that you ever been. I want you to know that. She was like, but you also about to be the happiest that you've ever been. She said, I get. She's like, I don't know what's on the other side for you. I'm going to be here with you, even if your lights cut off, everything. But she said, I promise you're going to be the happiest that you ever been. And when I say I have been the brokest that I have ever been, but I have seen some of the happiest time, even with my lights off. Honestly, I've gone to church and sang praise and worship while the lights have been off. Like, no lie. And I'm like, man, I can't leave this thing. It keeps me up at night. And I know this where the Lord has called me. Like, I know it without a shadow of a doubt. So, yeah. Yeah.
So for people who don't believe and would say, how do you believe this when the lights are off and it's not working?
Well, one, when you read God's word, you see examples of that He brought his toughest soldiers through the craziest of things. I mean, Paul wrote a lot of his books while he was in jail. And when I look at those things, I'm like, it don't make sense. But the characteristics and the strength that they get on the way out, God is like, that's where I'm trying to get you. And I've seen that. And I always tell people, you know, if somebody asks me, like, why do you follow God? Like, why? Out of all the crazy things that happen in the world. And I always say, I've been with him and I've been without him. And I never want to be without him again. Even when it's crazy, even when I'm drowning, I'm like, throw me a life raft here, please.
But he always does. He shows up in ways that we never expect.
Yes.
I've seen it.
Oh my God, I've seen it.
The way the elders say at church, he may not come when you want him.
Oh my God.
But he's always on time. On time. Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so talk about the business and what is going on now.
My goodness. So I just celebrated my 8th year anniversary of quitting the job. Like, I'm a quitter. That's the only way I'll celebrate being a quitter.
And that shows God.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. He's like, now
testimony.
Do you believe me? I'm like, yes. And in September, we'll celebrate 9 years of LeRouge Cuisine. So I'm super excited about that. We are growing. I'm blessed to say we made it through the pandemic. Oh my God, with
a lot of restaurants did not, and catering did not make it.
I remember my first client who canceled when we got shut down for the pandemic was Total Wine and More, and I mean corporate. I did their grand opening for their store in Cedar Hill, and they had called me again for their grand opening for the Oaklawn store, which, if anybody knows, like, that store is up and running now. But they were my first client to call and was like, yeah, we can't do it. These cases, we don't know what's going on with this COVID thing, so we have to cancel. And I was like, oh no, that was a couple of thousands. Like, I need that. And then that just trickled. I lost 91% of my revenue that year. And I spent the time ever since climbing out of that hole. But I took about 2 weeks to cry and to just sulk. Some other entrepreneurs that I was really close with called and was like, y'all want to start a prayer line? Because we don't know what else to do. You know, we're all in the same boat. And after I pivot and I found a way how to bring my services and my resources to the digital space, you know, we had some upward trajectory. I was able to hire, this is so crazy, in the pandemic in 2020, I hired my first employee. So I have my virtual assistant, Princess. I love her. She's still with me today. So that's awesome. A blessing. I hired my first production assistant. So my sous chef, I hired her in 21, I think.
In the midst of a pandemic.
Oh my God. And I just hired my newest production assistant at the beginning of this year. And that's a crazy story. And every single one of them, we came to be connected in a crazy supernatural way. So that's why I'm like, oh, you got favor over me. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we're doing good. We're building up a staff. I'm raising capital right now to hopefully get a brick and mortar space. I know everybody's asking about a restaurant. I'm like, you guys, I don't want a restaurant. I still have PTSD from the pandemic. I'm like, oh. But we're growing. I'm doing a lot of corporate work, a lot of private exclusives. So I'm trying to take LeRouge to a really big place. And I'm just really excited for what's to come. Scary, but yeah.
What's it look like for you 10 years from now?
Oh, 10 years from now. 10 years from now, I hope LeRouge Cuisine will have it'll be an amazing running machine, well-run machine that's really dominating in this space, in the corporate and the private exclusive world. My Surviving the Food Desert campaign was birthed out of my childhood and out of my love for food. So by 10 years, that will be up. Surviving the Food Desert cookbook will be out next month. I'm planning to open a multi-use production kitchen space, the first one in the southern sector of Dallas.
Wow.
Yes, so other chefs can have the resources that I didn't have. planning on a wholesale spice line with a social impact focus. And
so awesome.
And yeah, just a lot of programs really to help the community and give back to the community that gave back to me, but to share some great food with people. Urban fine dining is the platform that I really want to make big. So yes, that's where we're going to be at.
I love that you are a philanthropist
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
so talk
yeah.
a bit about, I mean, you've shared some glimpses, but talk about why philanthropy is so important to you and some of the ways that you've been giving back, because it's even more than what you just shared.
Yeah. So where I grew up in the Oak Cliff is considered a food desert, a food insecure area. And I think when I was growing up, I didn't understand what it was, but we unpacked food drive boxes when I was little. My mom used to take all these canned goods and all these government cheese and things, and when it was dinner time, I was like, where did this come from? Because I was like, I know our kitchen is a little bare, so where did you come up with this? And all the time, she was using her resiliency and her creativity to make these amazing food creations out of these boxes, making something out of nothing. So from that, when I started LeRouge, my social impact focus has always been food deserts. Always. I've had the opportunity to work with the American Heart Association. So I've been a community liaison chef for them. And I used to go around Southern sector and do different cooking demos and showing them how to use fresh and healthy food. I've done fundraising on behalf of American Liver Foundation and Hunger Busters, and more like that. My heart grows for it. I'm like, I got to do something more. So that's where Surviving the Food Desert came to be. Yeah. So the cookbook I wrote in 2020 when I lost all that money when we were shut down. And I thought about my mom, and I was like, there's so many people that are getting food drive boxes now, and I know they're tired of making the same spaghetti, cornbread, beans, and rice. And I challenged myself to see how many creative recipes I can make out of a food drive box. And those recipes are what's inside of the cookbook.
So where can people get the cookbook?
So we're almost ready for pre-sales. If you go on my website, www.enterlerouge.com/surviving the food desert, you can get all the updates. And also we have a page on Instagram, Surviving the Food Desert. And you can find out all the updates and what's going on and when the building comes and when the spice line comes. So hopefully that book will be out at the end of August or September. So
what if folks want your food? How can they get access to trying your food? And tell a little bit about your menu.
Yes. So LeRouge does elevated Creole fusion. So again, that urban fine dining, we serve mostly corporate, private exclusive, and special event clientele. And if anybody wants catering, they can go to our Instagram page to look at some pictures and get hungry. And then they can go to our website at enterlerouge.com, and it has our menus on there. I mean, everything from shrimp and grits is a specialty of mine. We have healthy options. We tailor to all dietary restrictions because I have my own dietary restrictions. So we take care of the vegans and the gluten-free and everything from catering delivery to full service to private chef services, for exclusive services. We do it all, but we give you that Creole fusion flavor with a Southern charm. And yeah, we're here to serve well and serve big, bold flavors. So yeah.
And if folks want to reach you?
Oh, reach me Instagram. You can find me on Facebook as well. On Instagram is born_2_cook, or Amber Williams on Facebook. Or again, you can email me at chefamber@enterlerouge.com.
You are doing such amazing work.
Thank you.
I am so proud of you. The fact that you have accomplished so much, and I see God doing so much more for you. I am so excited about your future. So you continue to be the light that you are. And you will have challenges and obstacles. That's a part of it.
I know.
But continue to stay faithful.
I will. And it's an honor to sit with you as well. Yes, it is.
So thank you for being on the show. And
thank you for having me.
This has been a wonderful episode, just having time to talk with you, Amber. And so y'all, please check out the amazing cuisine and work that Amber is doing in the community. Please support her. And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.